Lunch okay? Lunch good? Yeah. Good. Awesome. I definitely got chocolate cake, so yeah, do on that. But what I'll do, I'm kind of going to be a little bit of MC for the presentation. So I'll go ahead. I'll invite up the presenters, and then presenters give your speech for a few minutes and kind words and thank yous and all of that. And then the inductees will come up, and then I'll follow the inductees. So inductees, you don't have to worry about announcing the next person or anything like that. So I'll just go ahead and invite up the next presenters. And we're looking at about 10 minutes or maybe less, Jesse, for everyone's speech. Okay, we're good to go. And other than that, without further ado, I'd like to invite up Mr. Scott Fritz.
Didn't know about the 10-minute time limit, so I'll try not to run too long. No, just kidding, guys. But thank you to Club Sports and everyone here today to honor the accomplishments of these coaches and athletes. My name is Scott, and I was one of the Coach Beth's athletes in the inaugural years of the triathlon program she founded. So that's what we're here to talk about today. And for those of you not familiar with the triathlon, the order of events is swim, bike, and run. In each of these events, there's a start and a finish. What I've always found to be true is that the first swim stroke, the first bike pedal, and the first step on the run are some of the toughest. For starters, the water is cold and uncomfortable, and you take your first stroke surrounded by hundreds of athletes. After completing your swim, you run to your bike, and you try to balance while you take the first pedal stroke just to gain some momentum. By the time you get off your bike, your legs are already exhausted, and the adrenaline of the race is worn off. The simple task of beginning the run turns into a monumental step towards the finish, and a commitment to see the race through. The first step of any journey always delivers the most resistance. It pushes against your progress with self-doubt. It's uncomfortable, and it throws you off balance as you try to build that momentum. It challenges your mental commitment to see it through. Taking the first step to reach a goal is difficult enough when someone has gone before you and paved the way. But pioneering something new without a roadmap to success, well, that can be hard to imagine. Thankfully, there are some people whose passion and imagination look past those barriers to see only opportunity. They are selflessly willing to take the first step, knowing the foundation they lay will benefit others for years to come. I'm here today to introduce someone who has done exactly that. My coach and Liberty University's founding men's and women's triathlon coach, Beth Frackleton. When you consider the individual independent nature of triathlon training, you might be surprised to know it's a community made up of coaches and athletes with an unparalleled zest for life and a passion for inspiring others. Some of the greatest, most selfless men and women I've met through the sport, and Coach Beth is at the top of that list. She not only inspired us through her own Ironman endeavors, but in 2009 pioneered the Liberty Triathlon team for students like myself to get involved. Although we barely had enough athletes to compete our first year, Beth led us through with a steadfast optimism and a positivity. With Beth, it didn't matter if you were a track star looking to compete in triathlons, a beginner with no bike, or even the occasional student wanting to join without knowing how to swim. Coach Beth met everyone where they were at. Looking back, the early success of the triathlon team can largely be attributed to Coach Beth's coaching style. Her optimistic and positive spirit was contagious and allowed to see past the growing pains of a new program. She encouraged inclusion of anyone interested in the sport. Team members and newcomers alike were all welcome to join our team rides down Perryville Road and swims at Ivy Lake. We had students join who had never run a mile, students that showed up to Ivy Lake not sure if they could swim, and even some who would sign up for the team without a bike. But when a student was interested, Beth did everything in her power to bring their dream of competing in a triathlon to life. This included teaching one Liberty track athlete from Alaska to swim in less than a month. I will never forget his first race, as I ran out of the water and onto the beach where Beth always stood yelling out our times, positions, race strategy. I couldn't help but notice her eyes never left the lake. I thought, that's odd. Coach Beth never misses us. Come to find out later, she was so nervous for our Alaskan teammate, She was fixated on the water, deep in prayer, hoping he would survive the swim. Unfortunately, he didn't make it. No, I'm just kidding, he did great. Her passion for the sport and early success attracted many Liberty Track and swim team athletes, ultimately creating a Mid-Atlantic Conference contender. In the first 2 years of the program, you may have described our team as purists, never having competed in triathlon, but enjoying the sport without taking ourselves too seriously. There's Nick. There he is. Yeah, too seriously is the key word. But just 1 year later, we went from a team with too few athletes to qualify for a ranking to second in the Mid-Atlantic Conference behind Navy, beating out Duke, Virginia Tech, UVA, and many others. By year end, Liberty Triathlon was a known national contender and capped off the season with a top 20 performance at Collegiate Nationals, where over 100 Division I schools were represented. I will never forget Beth's expression when the results revealed we had just beat the likes of Duke, UVA, UNC, Penn State, USC, just to name a few. If you know Beth well, you know under her bubbly personality is a fierce competitor. Beth led us well in our pursuit of success on the course and genuinely cared for our success off of it. I still remember her celebrating our teammates passing rigorous nursing exams as if they had just won a race, and consoling those who had experienced tough losses in their life. Her heart for others was always on display. The triathlon program Beth began in 2009 had a profound impact on all of our lives. Self-confidence, lifelong friendships, and even marriages were formed on those teams. Lots of them, actually. Many of the athletes Beth coached are now following in her footsteps, coaching triathlon all the way up to the Olympic level and sharing their passion with others. It's hard to overstate the positive chain reaction Coach Beth began when she decided to build the Liberty Triathlon Club, but we are eternally grateful she did. See, the reality is, by starting the Liberty Triathlon team, Beth has impacted every student involved, past, present, and future. Just 3 weeks ago, the 2021 Liberty Triathlon team made the trip to Fort Lauderdale, Florida for the A1A Triathlon. Given they were only an hour away from my home, I couldn't resist witnessing how far the program had come in just 10 years. I explained to the student athletes the great honor Beth would be receiving today and how her efforts paved the way for them to be where they were. I felt like an old man, reminiscing about the good old days when we rode our bikes to races, couldn't get pool time at LaHaye, and were forced to swim in 50-degree Ivy Lake for practice. As I told them the slightly exaggerated stories of the program's early days, they expressed what Beth's efforts meant to them. They all seemed to grasp that Beth not only impacted the athletes she coached, but also every Liberty triathlete to come. One athlete shared she could not imagine her college experience without the sport and the team. Current Liberty Triathlon coach Heather Golnick is now carrying the torch and the tradition of leading with passion for the sport and a spiritual leadership for the students. She shared how thankful she was for Beth's trailblazing so she could be leading the team in the here and now. That's a true legacy. Coach Beth, the reason Liberty and everyone here honors you today is not only for the impact and accolades from your time coaching, but also the ongoing chain reaction you set in motion. We are so thankful you took the first swim stroke when it was uncomfortable. You took the first pedal on the bike to give the program that momentum, and committed to the long run by taking the first step. The selflessness and the giving of your time created the momentum for Liberty Triathlon team to grow and thrive for years to come. Thank you to Club Sports Hall of Fame for your support for the club sports programs, and thank you for recognizing the tremendous impact Beth has made. Coach Beth, it was our honor to have you as a coach, but an even greater blessing to have you as a friend.
Thanks, Scott. I knew this was going to be so hard. Where is Kurt? I mentioned earlier. I'm just forever grateful for allowing this opportunity. I'll never forget the day that I went to Liberty to meet with you and your team to ask about the possibility of a triathlon team. Thinking I was going to leave, well, it was a nice try, but you just opened your arms and just said, let's do it. And I was like, oh my gosh, we're going to do this. It was so easy. And from that moment on, each year we got a little better, and the whole team knew the support we had. I mean, and Scott and I have had the opportunity to do a lot of reminiscing recently, and we would drive up with these Liberty University buses, and I mean, people were just like, wow. We had hotels to stay in, we had nice meals, which obviously impacted our performance. So it wasn't just me. And the support from you guys made a huge difference. And and triathlon is expensive. I mean, it's expensive for individuals to compete as well as particularly a team. I mean, you have to, you're going to be in open water, you have to have a wetsuit and goggles, and then your bike, and each year you want a better bike. Because they're so expensive and they're fancy, and you can get faster on them. And just the equipment itself, and to transport a bike, you have to put it in a big case suit, and I mean, it's expensive. And you guys supported us and took a risk, really took a risk, but I was determined I was going to make it worth it. And the thing is I am competitive. Anybody that knows me, I don't like to lose in anything. But it was more than that. The year that Scott mentioned, 2012, was like our breakout year, and we did so well in the Mid-Atlantic Champions, and I just thought, we're good. And we went out to nationals, and the realistic part of me didn't think we'd leave as champions, but I thought we would do well, and we did. And I think 19th out of 120 schools, pretty darn good. Back then, I don't even think we realized the difference we were making. I don't think we realized how good we were for starting off. And but anyway, it is more than that. Like Scott said, anybody that wanted to be on the team, I welcome them. My son, Zach, who's here, he's currently in med school at UVA, but at the time he had just left me to go to undergrad there, and he was my only child, so it's kind of an empty nest, and little to know that God had another plan for me. He was going to give me 25 kids. So it was wonderful. But the really cool thing is because I had a son at that age, it really helped me understand where these student athletes are in their life. Many are away from home, and for the first time, some are really far from home. And when you're that age, you've got your schoolwork. Many were working part-time to help pay for their education, right? And then there's relationship issues. You're young and you're trying to become an adult, and because I had a son going through the same thing, it kind of helped. And when you're a coach, for those of you that are when they're a coach, you're more than a coach. You're a parent. You're a teacher. You're a mentor. You're everything to those kids. And I had friends that, wow, that sounds like that's quite a lot. And I wouldn't have it any other way. I wanted to make a difference in all their lives, more than, standing on the podium, although that was always kind of another goal. We wanted to do well, of course. We wanted to represent Liberty. I was proud. And we were different, as you guys know. When we go to competitions, we kind of looked at it a little different because of our faith. And standing on the beaches praying as a huddle, we were proud of that. And, I tell you, strong faith and working hard can get you a lot of good places, truly believe that. But anyway, I just hope that we, I had an impact on the students. They're still like family to me. They're like my kids, and I wanted to help them grow spiritually, emotionally, and physically. And the cool thing about triathlon is even at my age, you can still do them. So I'm turning 60, and you think that's old. There are people out there doing triathlons in their 70s and 80s, and it's a lifestyle, and it's something you can take with you for the rest of your life. So it was an honor. Just a couple things. The other thing that Club Sports did for me and two of our athletes is sent us to New Zealand to compete and World Championships. How cool is that? I was able to compete for my age group, and Joey Anderson and Parker Spencer, who eventually took the coaching role for me, they supported us financially to go over there. You just, and I tell my friends of that, their jaws drop. What? I'm like, yes, that's the kind of support we had, and that's how I knew that they cared about what we were doing. So that's huge. And the other thing that we did is, we think it was the first collegiate on-campus triathlon. And talk about a lot of work, not just for me, but for Kirk's staff to put on a triathlon on the campus, you know, with the traffic and everything like that. And it was cool because we collaborated with Lynchburg, the city of Lynchburg Triathlon Club. So we had, you know, the community support, and together it went off really well. And maybe tell you kind of athletes I had. Joey Anderson, and I hope I'm right when I say this, I've got the correct race, but he got off, he saw one of the Navy competitors get off course. He chased him down, told him, no, it's this way, still beat him. But I mean, he knew he had to do that if he was going to take that note. But anyway, that's the kind of character, and that's what's most important. And just, you know, just being part of a team and striving to do your best. And then in closing, it was a tough time, a tough decision I had to make when I left. But I'm a nurse by training, and so I had. Well, let me just back. I felt like at that point I'd been here 5 years, and I felt like maybe, you know, I had taken the team. I felt like as far as I could get it. You know, I founded it, and we were the team, I think, to beat on the Mid-Atlantic. You wanted to beat Liberty because we were good. And I was so proud of that, the competitive side of me. I love that. And other interesting note, I'll share this. My son, who was at UVA, does not do triathlons, you know. Not everybody can do them. But anyway, he's got his own skills. But one of his classmates, or not, you know, and said, he was on the triathlon team, and said, you know, Zach said, oh, you know, you have a race this week, and he said, yeah, he said, you know, that Liberty team, they're good. He goes, my mom's the coach of that team. And he didn't know anything, he didn't have a connection. We always thought that was a cool story. But finally, I really felt like it was time. I think, you know, when you feel like you've done as much as you can do, and then I hope and believe, and I think Scott and I have talked, we like to think that we, and Nick, and that we really did get us on the map nationally, put Liberty on the map in triathlon, and I felt like there's still more good things to happen, and I felt like it was time to pass it on. Coupled with the fact that I got a great job offer to be a health and wellness coach at University of Virginia, and that's where my son was and still is at the time. So I think God had a plan. You have to listen to the Spirit, and I think that's what it was meant to be. And so the cool thing is the skills that I used as a triathlon coach, I changed over into my health and wellness coaching. My favorite thing in life is to help others be their best selves, you know, and we all have it within us to be our best. And sometimes what the cool thing about sports is, you know, it teaches us so much. It teaches that sometimes things don't go as well. You don't fail, you learn from it, you keep going. So thank you for so much. I mean, I feel like I had the opportunity to start this program, and I started the health and wellness program at university. So I'm thinking, wow, I've been there 7 years now. Maybe it's time for me to think about something else. But you know, my son's getting married in a few months, and his fiance is here. So I'm looking forward to hopefully being a grandmother at some point. Anyway, thank you so much for everything. This has been a true blessing. And go Flames.
We can already see still the passion and commitment that both of you guys have and everything you've done here. I think two things to take away from one, I mean, you're here for a reason, right? You said you were hoping to make that foundation and get them to where they are at now. And that's 100% why you're here and why we wanted to honor you for that. So you've 100% accomplished that. And I just think the cool thing too is it's got organically, like we didn't even have to say, hey, you know, triathlon's down in your neck of the woods or anything like that. Like, you kind of found that out, and you sought that out yourself, and just connected with the players and the coaches there. That's special, and that's a special moment. I'm glad that you were able to have that too. So that's what I think makes what we're doing so exciting. Anyways, without further ado, I'd like to invite Mr. Coach Castro up for the next inductee, please. All right, thank you.
One of the reoccurring themes that you probably heard from Scott and Beth is the word legacy and blazing new trails, and I really appreciate what you stand for there. I would be remiss, first of all, not to say thank you as well to our club sports committee, our HO Hall of Fame committee, and also our club sports administration in general. This would not be possible without them, and I concur, by the way. Without their support, it's amazing. I'll share a little bit with you folks later on this, but the amount of support that we have as a club department, I kid you not, rivals the best in the country, if not the best in the country. We run our program, they run their program, I should say, as probably a Division III high-level program, which is quite a compliment. So again, I want to thank Club Sports for all that you've done for all of our sports, certainly for wrestling as well. So we're talking about legacy, and I can't help but to start this presentation off with that theme. And that theme, go with me, take a step back with me. It's 1976. It is 5:30 in the morning, and I'm on a bus driving through from the Treasure Island right to this location right here to pick up students. So we went from Treasure Island with a bunch of students, stopping here, we called them Hodabees, hotel boys, it was kind of a slang word, and picking up all of the hotel residents, and then driving to the far end, Days Inn, to pick up students there. To drive to an old condemned building, the old Brookville High School, literally condemned, to have our classroom. That was liberty, that was a legacy, that was a heritage that I was privileged to be part of. And I say that because I think it really ties in to what I'm going to talk about Aaron here. So never forget where you are, because it's very important to remember where you came from. And so when I speak of Aaron, it is such an honor to introduce him, because Aaron was part of a legacy. He's part of a legacy not only from back then of a wrestling program, but also from a reinstated program in 2006. Aaron was a senior in high school, and we recruited him out of the Roanoke area. Now get this, we recruited him as a 149-pounder. By his sophomore year, he's 197 pounds. So the guy just ballooned up. When I say ballooned up, I'm talking about in a good way. I mean, him and his wife, Sarah here, lovely Sarah, now have 2 girls. And they look right out of a magazine, these two. So, you know, Aaron, we called him Superman when he was a student here, because he was just, you know, just beefed up, strong as can be. And again, going from 149 to 197 pounds, wrestling for us on the Division I level. At the time, we were NCAA Division I. But it was crucial because Aaron filled in the gap for us at that weight class. And we were at a point as a program turning the corner. We had success early on, but we actually wrestled in a dual meet at the University of Maryland. They were ACC Division I champions that year. Well, here comes Liberty University, fairly new program. No one expected us to be able to compete at that level. Well, it's back-to-back, weight class to weight class. 1 point lead, 1 point lead for that, back and forth. And all of a sudden, we find ourselves all the way up to second to the last weight class. Aaron Thompson's going against a nationally ranked individual, and we're thinking, oh man, this could seal it up for them. It could. However, Aaron stepped up to the plate and upset this nationally ranked wrestler, putting us in a position, a heavyweight, to win a match. And our heavyweight ended up winning, and we ended up defeating the ACC champions that year. That was a huge pivotal point for us. Why do I say that story? Because I think that too is equally important as we pave the way for those that come after us. What happens when you break new ground? All of a sudden, those who come after, they find it, and they grasp it as something that is now possible. It's like when Roger Bannister broke the 4-minute mile mark. What happened in the next 6 months? 4 people broke that. So there's momentum, if you will. Aaron was part of that momentum in our program. And here's what I'm equally proud of Aaron. Aaron could have quit the team when we transitioned from the NCAA Division I to the NCAA Division. I mean, I lost 40% of my team. They just transferred out. And everyone else was just in disarray. But Aaron stuck with it. He stuck with the program and transitioned us into the NCAA with success. And not only through his talent, but also through his work ethic and his attitude and his character and his love for the Lord. To me, that means more, Aaron, than anything else, because what you did is not only helped us on the mat, but you helped us carry that momentum spiritually as well as athletically into the next era, if you will, for us in the NCAA. So Aaron is an outlier. What does that mean? It's the statistical anomaly. When you do research, an outlier is someone that stands outside of the norm. He's always been like that. I mean, like I say, Superman. Everything he touches seems to turn to gold. I mean, the guy has more accolades than you can imagine on a professional level. He's been a sales director for what, 6 years, 7 years now? I mean, he's got all kinds of these awards, and I'll just read a few of them, but he's a top medical sales rep in his region, the Totem Pole Leadership Award, I can't read my own writing. I'm so sorry. It's terrible. He's got all kinds of accolades. Yeah, I was educated at Liberty too. But he works for Stryker Sales as an executive right now, and like I said, everything that he touches turns to gold, and a lot of that has to do with coming from a good family too. He's got great parents, and I'm telling you, when you have that support group, it means a world, you know, as you step into college life and far beyond. So Aaron's success is a testimony not only to his God-given talent, but also for the work ethic, again, something that his obedience to the Lord, where he could have taken a shortcut, but he didn't. He stayed with it and helped us as a program to turn the corner. But we're so proud of him. You know, we use the term, or the motto, I should say, training champions for Christ. You all have heard that before. Training champions for Christ. Well, what's that mean? You know, training champions for Christ. Well, I think he's a living embodiment, I should say, of that, of what a champion is, a true champion. I was talking to Aaron's dad just a little while ago. It's not just graduating with a degree, learning how to make a living, but it's learning how to live and live righteously, to be a good father, to be a good husband, you know, to be a good citizen, to be a good person, one that reflects the image of Jesus Christ, which the school stands for. And Aaron certainly does that. So it's my honor. And I say, by the way, I love to study words, by the way. We throw these words around like frisbees. Honor. What does honor mean? And the verse that came to my head was, you honor a prophet in the name of a prophet, and you receive a prophet's reward. What does that mean? Honor. Honor is celebrating who a person is without stumbling over who they're not. And so when we honor somebody, we're actually bestowing upon them a celebration of who he is. And so what I like about that is it's actually transferable. So as according to the verse, if we honor somebody, guess what we get? We get what that person is actually receiving. And that's how the body of Christ is supposed to operate. So without any further ado, I want to introduce to you someone very special to me, someone whom I've grown to love very much, and who's been pivotal in our program, Mr. Aaron Thompson.
Well, as I look out, I just want to say thank you first off, and I see a lot of familiar faces as well, and you know, I just want to go through this and kind of explain what Liberty was for me. And so, but first I want to thank my family. You know, as it said, and I now realize there's a lot that goes into raising a child, and I thank you for your sacrifices that you made. You know, all the time commitments, the finances, you know, thank you for your commitment to me. You're the ones who helped mold and shape me into the man I am today, and for that I'm truly blessed. You know, growing up I was a big baseball and football player, but once I landed on wrestling, I knew it was a sport for me. I liked the ability to be a part of a team, but the individualism you take on. It's only you and your competitor out on the mat, and when you win, you worked hard for it. When you lose, you may have worked hard but came up short. And it teaches you a lot about life. You reap what you sow, and the only person to hold accountable is yourself. Why Liberty? You know, I visited a few different places and met with coaches who told me, here's your weight class and this is your spot on our team. Seems like how many of those conversations would go, and I'm sure for a lot of sports. However, when I visited Liberty, just an hour up the road from Roanoke, it was different. The people made it that way. You know, meeting with Coach Castro, it was more than just a spot on the team. And he asked me about my personal life, my walk with Christ. He made it clear he cared more about me as an individual and my spiritual growth than anything. That stood itself apart from any conversation I had with the coach leading up to that point. I knew at Liberty I would have a home away from home, so thank you. My experience at Liberty was amazing. I always discuss with others how it's a place where you can truly have and find whatever it is you're seeking for. As mentioned before, I found a home away from home, lifelong friends who were my teammates. I had the ability to grow spiritually, which is more important than anything else, and these things have paid dividends for me later in life. I'll tell you a story and a life lesson really quick that I learned from Coach, one he probably doesn't recall and wasn't using as a teaching moment. He had a lot of those. However, that's how these things generally work. I was a young 18-year-old freshman walking down between classes to go hang out in our wrestling room, which was in the south end zone at Williams Stadium at the time. And I see this guy, I don't know who it is, hot, scorching hot day, dressed in full sweat, it's a beanie, doing stadium steps. And so I look at it and I'm like, who is this person out here running around doing this? First off, I'm like, it's a hot day, who likes doing stadium steps? Nobody. So I go down there and as I get closer I realize it's Coach Castro. I'm like, as an 18-year-old looking at him like, this old man's gonna kill himself. I'm like, what's going on here? So I stop and I just kind of in amazement and awe, like, all right, I gotta figure out what's up. And so he's running the stadiums and he's going and he comes back down and when he makes his way back around to me, he's just out of breath, sweating like crazy. And I look at him like, he's like, hey Aaron, I said, Coach, what are you doing? And he looks at me and he goes, stadium steps. I go, well, yeah, I see that, but you've got an AC, nice workout facility like 10 feet from you, right behind me here. And I'll never forget it. He just looked at me because I go, I can't stand doing stadium steps. And he goes, yeah, me either, Aaron. He's like, I hate it, but that's why I do it. And it gives me chills to this day, and I think it speaks volumes because no matter what it is, no matter how big, how small, whatever it may be, if you can find something that you don't like to do and don't want to do and you make yourself do it, it's teaching you that self-discipline day in, day out. And that's what sets yourself apart. And later in life, you'll realize that. In society, you know, people leave their buggies in freaking parking lots. It's annoying to me. I don't know about anybody else. You know, stuff like that. They'll throw stuff away at the trash can, you know, paper towels just all around. It's like that. I use that opportunity myself just to pick it up and do it or put them back because it's not something I want to do. You know what I mean? But it's something that other people don't want to do. And I think in all walks of life, that's going to help you out. Do something big or small, once a day, that you don't want to do and you know someone else doesn't want to do either. So, the transition and reclassification, as Coach already hit on, from NCAA to NCAA was bittersweet. We had just come off an outstanding season, one which many of us thought was a pivotal start to a new era in the program. You know, we defeated Maryland in a dual match, who were the ACC champs that year, and we're gearing up for what's ahead. Those of us who stuck around during this transition did so with the focus and commitment to the program, one another, and Coach Castro. We set our sights on what's ahead. This gave me the ability to take the training and grind instilled in us to the NCAA level with success. Much like the others who stayed to see this through, it generated and garnered the ability to win a national championship and become a 3-time All-American. The club sports, thank you. I really appreciate everything you all do. Without you, none of this would have been possible. The programs here and at this level are top-notch. The ability to have and use the facilities, travel schedule, equipment, and so on is truly remarkable. To see things transpire the way they have is exciting, and I can't wait to see what the future holds for both the wrestling program and other club sports here on campus. So again, thank you. Lastly, thank you to my wife, Sarah, for all of your love, support, and confidence in me. We met at Liberty just over 10 years ago and haven't looked back. The future is bright. We now have 2 beautiful girls, Juliet and Josie. They say behind every successful man is a strong woman, so thank you. And I'm honored to receive this award and be inducted into the Hall of Fame today. The fundamentals I learned while here at Liberty has given me the ability to achieve success on a multitude of levels. In my career, meeting and exceeding goals, in my spiritual walk as a husband and as a father. So to him be the glory, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Coach, for those words. And I think that the discipline, man, that's awesome. Thank you for that lesson and whatnot too. I can definitely see that though. I see it. That's awesome. Do you do that now?
No.
No. You got a sauna now, so just yeah, we gotta get some lunchtime sauna going with you guys here. But thank you so much for that. It's been a pleasure getting to know you over the phone and chatting with you these past couple of weeks and months leading up to this too. So I'm grateful for that too. So next up, I'll invite Ryan to introduce our next inductee.
So this is the second time I've had the privilege of introducing one of my best friends into the Club Sports Hall of Fame. I can honestly say when the ski and snowboard team started, like this was not what we thought this would be. Like any of us would end up here. Snowboarding and skiing is really, at the end of the day, it's such a silly sport. You're on a piece of wood, sliding over frozen water, throwing your body through the air. For us, it's throwing like sliding over plastic carpet bristles, but it's such a silly thing. But we do it, and so I was thinking about like, why do we do this? Like, why do we do this weird, silly sport? Because you look awesome. And so that is why we do it. As I was thinking, when Will asked me to do this, I started thinking about what were the qualities in Will that made him such a special coach. I thought of 4 that I think I wanted to highlight reasons he's deserving of this honor. And the first one is passion. So if you've ever met Will, then you know that he's a pretty passionate person. Probably a little bit too passionate, actually. It's a little bit annoying at times. But that's, when you think about it, like that's the type of person that you want at the wheel, right? Like he's just that type of person. You want somebody who cares deeply. And Will cares very deeply about the ski snowboard industry. He loves it, he loves the values, he loves the culture, and he loves how creative you can be on a snowboard. From the first day I met Will, there was no doubt in my mind that he absolutely loved to snowboard. He was always out there screaming at people, trying to get other people to come ride with him. And what's crazy about Will's passion is how persistent he can be about things. So you might not want to go riding, but Will's the type of person that's going to keep bugging you until the next thing you know, you're strapped into your board, sliding downhill, and you're like, how did I get here? Sorry. And that's Will. He's so passionate about skiing and snowboarding that he makes you think that you're missing something if you're not doing it. And so you go out because you're intrigued and you want to see what all the hype's about. That's the type of person that Will is. His passion's infectious. And I think Will's passion for the sport is what made him a good coach. Freestyle skiing and snowboarding as a whole is a pretty laid-back culture and sport. You learn pretty early on that you're not supposed to take things too seriously. And this can be a pretty hard group of people to motivate. Because they just want to go out when they want to, and they just want to have fun. They don't want to necessarily do the things that you tell them to do. They're not super used to structured practices and things like that. But Will's passion is like it was infectious. He got people who don't care about a lot of things to care about this, to care about going out and succeeding. And so I think that's why Will was such a good coach. His passion led other people to be passionate. Which leads me to my second point, which is vision. Will's the type of person who is always thinking ahead. He sees what something can be before anyone else sees it. And so he aims for that. So you might not see it, but Will sees it. And he's going to be pushing you toward that end. So Will had a huge vision for what the team could be from the very get-go. He envisioned Liberty being one of the best teams in the nation, which is actually pretty crazy when you think about it, like this snowboard team from Virginia being the best in the nation. He believed firmly that we could walk away from nationals in first every year. That wasn't a question to him. He saw it. He knew that we had some of the best resources available to us, and so he was going to make sure that we took advantage of those resources to develop, to be the best that we could possibly be, to improve. So he pushed us. He pushed us to live up to our potential. The other thing, I got to coach for a couple of years, and the other thing that Will was really passionate about and had a vision for was recruitment. And he was the type of person, like he talked to me about it multiple times. Will's a media guy. So Will always had these crazy video ideas of like, hey, we make this video, you know how sick it's gonna be? People will watch that, they'll come to Liberty, it'll be amazing. He's also a salesman, and so his idea was just to get people to come to Liberty, because he thought if I can get them to tour it and they can see the resources that we have available, there's no way that they won't come here, because this will be the best 4 years of their life. I think he promised a little too much, but this will be the best 4 years of their life. And I love that about him, because I think as a coach, I saw a lot of challenges with recruiting. You know, as a club sport, you're not able to offer scholarships or anything like that. So I saw a lot of challenges, but for Will, he saw a lot of opportunities. And he truly believed that Snowflex was one of the coolest facilities in North America, and he wanted others to see that too. He wanted them to come and to take advantage of that. The other thing that I thought was really cool about Will was development, but not just development of athletes, like strategic development. As most of you know, as you alluded to, coaching is a huge privilege and a huge responsibility. You have these students for a couple of years at most, and so you're doing everything that you can in that time to develop them, and that's something that I think Will did extremely well. So Will was the first person to introduce structured practices to the ski snowboard team. I was around at the beginning when it was first founded, and it was not structured at all. It was a free-for-all. But Will was the first one to do that. He knew that in order to be successful, there needed to be a ton of repetition. So just like any sport, you just need to keep doing the same thing over and over and over again until it becomes secondhand nature. So you had a certain list of tricks that you had to do at the beginning of every practice before you were allowed to move on. But that was really effective. It helped people improve because they built in like a really solid foundation that allowed them to be more successful when they got to the more technical stuff. The second thing that I thought, or that Will, as I was reflecting, I was like, yeah, he was the one that did that. He introduced workouts to the ski snowboard team. Now, yes, skiers and snowboarders are always in the gym already. No, I'm just kidding. We're never in the gym. No, never in the gym. And that was a hard one. Will heard a lot of complaints from that when he started that. He introduced it. But again, he cared. Well, like he cared enough to show up. Like he wouldn't work out, but like he showed up. He would show up because, you know, like lead by example and stuff. In all seriousness, though, he wanted the team to improve. Our sport is kind of crazy. You're going 20 to 40 miles an hour into this jump that's going to throw you 60 to 70 feet through the air, and it's really easy to get broken. We have been broken several times. Will's back, I think, is permanently broken. But he wanted the team to get stronger so that there would be less injuries. We had a very small team, so injuries meant that we might not compete if it happened. But also, I think about how Will really invested into the athletes. They were more than just athletes on a roster to him. They were friends. He cared about where people were going and what their goals were. And I think that that's what made him such a good coach. The people on our team knew that Will cared, and he didn't just want to see them succeed. This has been a theme. He didn't want to just see them succeed at skiing and snowboarding. He wanted to see them succeed in life. So he would regularly follow up with people and see how they were doing or if they needed anything. I can personally attest to this. He is one of the most generous, hospitable people that I know. He will literally go out of his way to do anything for anyone. And so Will was a coach that was focused on holistic growth and development. He cared about the athletes coming to the program, and I think it's his care that led him to do the things, or it's his care that led them to do the things that they weren't super excited about doing. And that and his ability and willingness to lead by example, which is my final point. So leading by example. In ski snowboard culture, we call it dropping first. So when you're standing at the top of a course and you're maybe a little bit nervous because there's a jump that's a little bit bigger than you've ever hit before, there's always got to be somebody to test the speed. You might have enough to get over it, you might not. And so we call it dropping first. Will is the type of person that drops first. So when I think about coaching and mentoring, I often think about the importance of leading by example. Shouting out directions can motivate sometimes, but leading by example goes a long way when you're trying to motivate people, especially skiers and snowboarders. I firmly believe that many of the things that we try to teach and instill in our athletes are more caught than taught. And Will was great at this. Will would always try to inspire athletes to go for things that he knew they could do, but they didn't know they could do yet. So if it was hitting a big jump and an athlete was nervous, Will would drop first. There was a time when most of us cared very little about our bodies, the health and well-being about our bodies. We have this saying in ski snowboard culture called huck and hope. You just throw your meat and you hope for the best. Probably not the best saying, but that's the kind of lifestyle that we lived. It was the kind of lifestyle Will lived. This is the kind of stuff that really inspires skiers and snowboarders. Skiing and snowboarding is an individual sport, but there's a ton of value in community. The best skiers and snowboarders in the world are people who ride with people that are better than them because it motivates them to do things that they probably wouldn't do on their own. So Will was always great at dropping first. Whether it was a ski snowboard thing or a personal life thing, Will was great at taking the lead and letting others learn from his life, his successes and his failures. He was pretty vulnerable, pretty open book. I firmly believe that's why many of us in this first couple of years are still such good friends to this day. So in summation, I think Will helped make the ski snowboard team what it is today. He paved the way, set up a good foundation for all of us who have coached since then. And we've been able to build upon it, so thank you, Will. Stoked that you're going to be a part of this special group of athletes and coaches, and honored that I could tell everybody why you deserve to be here.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for being here. Thanks, Ryan. That was a great speech. Hugging, two skinny guys hugging is always super I'd like to start by congratulating my fellow induction members, Beth and Aaron. It's been really fun hearing about your guys' stories today. Congratulations for being here, and I'm honored to be getting inducted alongside you guys. I'd like to thank Ryan and his wife for traveling to introduce me. I loved having Ryan on the team. It was so easy to hand the team to you, man, when it was time for me to move on. You're an exceptional athlete and snowboarder, but you're an even better friend, and I've used the way that you lead your life and family as a benchmark whenever I'm assessing the way I'm checking the way that I lead my own, so thank you for that. I'd like to thank my beautiful wife for being here today. Thank you, honey. Getting to stay next to you always makes me look way cooler than I actually am. And so just thanks for being here. I love you. She's a pretty good snowboarder too, by the way. Of course, I'd like to thank Kirk Handy and the entire club sports department for considering me for this honor, and for induction to their Hall of Fame and I'd like to thank you guys for your constant support of the LU Ski and Snowboard program as well. And lastly, I'm thankful for Liberty for their continued support of the Liberty Mountain Snowflex Center and LU's exceptional club sports teams. That facility and program were pivotal catalysts in my life and career, so thank you, Liberty. Liberty's Club Sports is a world class, and I love the story of its birth of a ragtag group of students who started a hockey team that piled into each other's cars to make the drive to Roanoke to compete against each other, to compete against other schools that would play them. Oddly enough, my father-in-law, Jody Cummings, was one of the first athletes whose love for competition and desire to compete on Liberty's behalf would eventually start the phenomenal multi-sport athletic program that LU Sports Department Club Sports Department has become. And man, has this program taken off. The facilities, the medical care, the logistic support, and exceptional coaching at LU Club Sports has made this program an asset to Liberty and is capable of drawing exceptional student athletes. Upon finding out that my name would be listed next to the most elite names that have moved through this program through this exceptional program is a real honor, and I was humbled when I was told that I was being inducted. So thank you guys again. One of the reasons that I was humbled is that when I look at the list of sports that these athletes have participated in, the overwhelming majority of them, as Ryan mentioned, require intense physical training. And if you look at former club sports athletes, especially like Aaron here, I don't think it's a wonder that like anyone that's ever been on the ski and snowboard team would ever be able to beat him in anything athletic. So in contrast, given how snowboarding is relatively accurately portrayed in popular culture, I think it would come as a surprise to you that there was more than one occasion where as a coach I would have to encourage one of my more accomplished riders that eating an entire large pepperoni pizza on the chairlift ride to their drop-in for their next run is not something I'd encourage. So yeah, in regards to the physicality needed to compete at a collegiate level compared to most of the other programs that LU hosts, it's an honor that our sport's invited to be here, so thanks again for your support, Club Sports. But as humbled as I am to be honored by this organization, I have been given a platform to speak for a few minutes, and in preparing for this speech, I figured the best thing that I could do to provide you all with value given the time that I have is attempt to convey what is beautiful about what the athletes who compete at LU ski and snowboard teams what is beautiful about what the athletes who compete on LU ski and snowboard team accomplish each time they strap in to compete for LU. Imagine, if you would, that we've left this room and that you are now standing on a sheet of ice and snow, and take a moment with me to actually pretend that we've placed nearly 100 feet below you and 70 yards away from you a ramp that's 13 feet high, and if you choose to move towards it, it will throw your body 70 to 100 feet away from the lip of that ramp. Now imagine that someone is asking you to not only go down this jump, but is telling you to try to look confident and athletic while you do it. And if any of you who are not skiers and snowboarders in the room took the time to imagine this with me, you may be feeling some anxiety right now, and that's fair. But this is not the beautiful part that I mentioned earlier that I'm eventually going to get to. Some of you may be thinking that I'm getting ready to tell you that the athletes who compete in this sport learn courage by placing themselves in environments like this. But honestly, the fact that we as skiers and snowboarders put ourselves through this is not courageous, but is instead stupid, because it has long-term effects on how we perform physically, and I'm much more aware of those now than I'm in my mid-30s. But now that I have some of you feeling properly anxious, I'd like to take you through the mental process that we teach each of our athletes to go through as they're traveling nearly 40 miles an hour through a slopestyle course. Rider dropping, drop, keep your board straight, gain speed, hold. Hold. Small turn to the left, set your left edge, arms in front, pop and move your arms over your head over your right shoulder while rotating a backside spin. Hold your chin to your shoulder, hold it there, spot your landing, release, land, keep your board straight, regain speed, small turn to the left, set your right edge, arms behind you, pop and move your arms and head over your left shoulder while rotating a frontside spin, and the process continues. The point I'm making here is that in competitive skiing and snowboarding, we're provided a unique opportunity for athletes to move through a long list of executables that need to occur correctly and at the perfect moment on a tenth of a second by a tenth of a second basis, with severe consequences that could cost you the win or land you in a hospital if at any moment you do not perform the correct maneuver at the correct time. This sport teaches you that execution matters more than intention. It looks like magic when you watch it on TV, but it's not. It's physics. And while physical training and abilities can certainly give you an edge, ultimately a pizza-gobbling engineering major can succeed if they understand do the correct thing at the correct time, and you win, don't, and you lose. This is the beauty of what these kids do. It teaches them that making the correct decisions at the correct time advances them. And what if you had your arms around that concept better when you were younger and making decisions in your life? And how could you benefit from that concept, from being better at that concept as you continue to move forward now? It was an honor to be given the opportunity have been given the opportunity to teach Liberty students that for the most part, like the X Games, life is not magic. And you cannot control what happens, and you can control a lot of what happens to you, and execution matters. Thank you, Liberty Club Sports, for your time this afternoon and for the honor of serving as a coach. I absolutely love this time in my life. Thank you so much.
I can't tell if I'm sweating from talking or imagining myself up on the top. Actually, ironically enough, the one time I've actually gone on the Snowflex, it was snowing. So there's snow on there, but then they shut it down whenever there's snow. So I guess you are used to that frustration. But thank you guys so much for all your words. I'm in a book club right now called Words of Appreciation, right? And it's given me more, I think, thought and intentionality behind the things that we say, and the words that have power behind them, like what you're saying with the word honor and things like that too. So it's just cool to hear what you guys have to say about each other. So thank you for letting us be a part of that and getting a little glimmer into your lives personally as well too. Couple logistic things. Once I'm going to have ask Jeff to come up and close us out in prayer. But after that, we'll just have Kirk, if you could stay around for a little bit too, the inductees and presenters, and we'll take some pictures with your awards, and then we'll get families and all that included too. But you're welcome to leave after that, but we just want to make sure we get pictures, and those are actually yours for you to take as well too. We have our own copy that we'll put up in the ice rink for you too, so make sure you get a public display there and recognition. So, but Jeff, we'll go ahead and come up and close out in prayer, please. Thank you.
Well, I feel like my heart is full. I mean, hearing these stories from both the presenters and the inductees has been really phenomenal today. And as an administrator, a coach, former athlete, to think about that from all those different perspectives brings a lot of meaning to what we're doing. So thank you. I've been thinking about love and God's love and biblical love over the last week or so. I mean, obviously longer, but a couple of scriptures have been on my mind, and so I just want to share those with you before we pray. It's a brotherly love, it's a sisterly love, it's a love that is a commitment. But Mark chapter 12, 30, 31 says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, and all your strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. These are the two greatest commandments that God gives us. And all the commandments in the Word are boiled down into those. Our holistic development team preaches that for us as administrators, for our coaches, for our athletes. So I wanted to share that. But also in John 15:13, greater love has no man than this. This is from Jesus, that he laid down his life for his friends. And he says, you're my friends if you do what I command. And so I encourage you, I bless you with that. Let's do what he commands. Let's love each other as we go from here. But thank you to the inductees for giving of yourself, your commitment, your faithfulness, and your love to club sports, to your student athletes, and to your teammates as you've been here. So let's pray. God, we love you. You are the perfect example, Jesus, of what love is and of what it means to love others. And you laid down your life for us, and we praise you for that. Give us hope and joy and purpose and passion, Lord, in a world that's hurting and needs it. So help us to go from here and be that for those around us. And we celebrate our inductees, and we give you glory for their lives and pray that you bless them. Bless their families, have your hands upon them. May your purposes and plans be established for them as they step forward from here. Lord, we love you. Thank you for the whole event today. Just pray that you be glorified. In Jesus' name, amen.